Welcome into a brand new Patriots Hub podcast. Alex Barth, Matt Dolloff with you from 98.5 The Sports Hub, 98.5thesportshub.com. It's look ahead day, Thursday, Patriots Titans coming up Sunday afternoon. The final game in this three-game road stretch in the middle of what might be one of the weakest stretches of the Patriots schedule between the Saints, Titans, and Browns, but it is the Tennessee Titans. It is Mike Vrabel's return to set Tennessee Dolphin. I guess let's start there. This is a Titans team that has struggled since Vrabel left. They are 4-19. They just fired his replacement this week in Brian Callahan. They'll have an interim in Mike McCoy, the former San Diego Chargers head coach they were at the time. I guess there's two ways we can go with this. Let's start with the Vrabel side of things. He's downplayed it all week, and I really liked his quote at the beginning of the week that, there's some things that are important but not necessarily interesting. There's some things that are interesting but not necessarily important. He categorizes his return to Tennessee as interesting but not important. So
it almost sounded like a journalism class he was holding. What's interesting, what's important. Yeah.
He's not shooting down the significance of it. He's just kind of on his end, it doesn't change anything for him. And we've heard players echo that and other coaches echo that all week as well. But we know Vrabel can kind of get a hair across his ass for some things, and it didn't exactly sound like it ended pleasantly in Tennessee for him in that ownership group. How much do you think this is actually factoring into, like, how much of the Vrabel return thing do you think weighs on them come Sunday?
It's a factor. It's definitely a factor. And I mean, it's not even just Vrabel. It's a lot of guys on the Patriots staff that he brought over that used to be in Tennessee. I can't rattle off all the names right now, but, John Stryker, Ryan Cowden was there.
Zach Core.
Zach Core is an example. I don't want to rattle off all the names. Todd Downing, wide receivers coach. Thank you, Barth, for the examples there.
I don't know if that's all of them. I was trying to think of them too.
But it's not like Vrabel's going into the room and this guy's like, we got to do this for me, and everyone else is like, I don't care about the Titans. Like, there's a lot of guys in that room that might have a little hair across their asses for the Titans. So yeah, it's definitely a factor. But look, I don't know how much it would really matter in terms of your preparation. And then once you finally get on the field on Sunday, I mean, a lot of these players don't really have anything to do with the Titans. Harold Landry, I guess, might have a little extra motivation that the Titans didn't keep him around. And Vrabel wanted him back.
I think it's more about we got to win this for our coach because he means so much to us and we know this means something to him. But yeah, I think he's trying to downplay that as much. He said it this week. This isn't let's win one for the Gipper, which is a reference I think flew over some people's heads. So you gotta
what's the Gipper?
Do you not know?
No, the Gipper.
So I gotta look it up to get the exact details. But
I know the Skipper. But what's the Gipper?
It's the Gipper. So it's a movie from I think it's way back there. It's about this Notre Dame. It's the movie about Newt Rockne, All-American. And
okay, I know Newt Rockne.
Well, so there's a movie about Newt Rockne, and one of the players at Notre Dame at the time was sick, and he died, and his nickname was the Gipper. And the player, or I forget if it's Rockne or the player, is played by Ronald Reagan, and Newt Rockne goes in to give a speech. Yeah, and Newt Rockne goes in to give a speech and says, "Let's win one for the Gipper." For this kid who's sick. So that's what the reference.
No. It's a very timely topical reference.
That movie came out October 4th, so we're in the right month. But 1940. So that is 85-year-old movie reference for Mike Vrabel. I say that complimentary.
I'm a big movie guy. I've seen 4 movies pre-1940, like Wizard of Oz, a couple Charlie Chaplin movies, and that's it. I haven't seen Win One for the Gipper.
Well, it's called Newt Rockne All-American, but it's a famous line from the movie.
How could I forget? Yeah, but I thought that was a funny quote. I knew, I got what he meant by it. I just didn't know exactly what the Gipper was. So that was an interesting way to put it. But just to get back on track here.
Yeah, we said before we came on, this was going to be a short podcast. Now we're doing 5 minutes on the films of Ronald Reagan and Pat O'Brien.
Your thoughts on the cinematography of Citizen Kane, Barth? No, I'm not going to. Sorry, I already got us off the rails. But look, it didn't end well for Vrabel there, and I'm sure he wanted to keep coaching in Tennessee. Nobody wants to get fired from their job, and so he probably has a hair across his ass for ownership and all that. And I think that it also plays into the fact that the Titans fired Brian Callahan earlier this week. The more we think about it, the more it makes sense. The timing was perfect for that. can't have that guy get his ass kicked by Mike Vrabel.
No.
You can't have that happen if you're the Tennessee Titans. And look, I give the Titans a little bit of a chance to be, surprisingly competitive in the game because of the new coach factor.
So that was the other thing I wanted to ask you. Do you buy into the interim coach bump in this game?
I always buy into that. So I feel like they could be a little more competitive because, look, they got some good players. They got some talent. I know Cam Ward isn't playing particularly well this year, but he was the number 1 overall pick in the draft, athletic player. They have Jeffrey Simmons, who's like an all-pro caliber, one of the best defensive players in the league, period, regardless of position. The interior of the offensive line, Kevin Zeitler, Pierce Garanzi, those guys, that's a solid interior of the line. So maybe they match up well with the Patriots' defensive interior. The receivers don't terrify me, but Calvin Ridley, Eli Manor looks like a pretty good player. Like, they got some players there. So, like, maybe those guys just weren't really feeling it with Brian Callahan, and maybe Mike McCoy could come in and sort of get them to believe a little bit. And maybe they're saying, look, Mike Vrabel wants to come in here and embarrass us, and we're not going to let that happen. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this game is closer than people are expecting. I don't know exactly what the line is or the over-under or anything like that, but I expect both teams to really, really want this win for the reasons we sort of laid out there. So I'm expecting a close competitive game, but I feel like they're going to see the difference with the Patriots this week is going to be sort of the difference that we saw last week, which is just Drake Maye is better than their guy at quarterback. I feel like that could be the difference. But I also feel like the Patriots could have, that extra motivation from Mike Vrabel, and just they have a little bit more talent than the Titans overall, and certainly the better quarterback. And so I feel like they're going to come out on top, but I feel like the reasons for motivation are there on both sides. And so that's why I expect a surprisingly competitive game on Sunday.
So 7-point spread. I'm with you. And just historically, the interim coach bump, teams are more competitive. It doesn't really translate to wins. It does translate a little more to teams covering. So, do the Titans make it a 1-score game? Maybe. Yeah. But I just think, to your point, I mean, you name off some of the players on the roster, and that's fair, but that's not a long list of guys that can. I think all the players you named are like good players, but it's not a long list when you're trying to win a game like this.
Yeah, no, the well has started to dry up as the longer I was going on with that comment. I'm not sure if I had much more for you there.
Well, so the one thing I will add to that, and we're recording this Thursday evening, Calvin Ridley has not practiced yet this week. He missed the first 2 days of practice with a hamstring injury. Usually you don't practice Wednesday and Thursday. Regardless of what happens Friday, you don't play. So Calvin Ridley is a top 5 player on the Titans, and they might not have him. So that list was as thin as you'd mentioned, and we'll see what happens with Ridley. Obviously, moving forward, they have a couple other guys like Joey Sly's banged up for them. I think he was out last week. A kicker.
Patriots legend.
They had Simmons on the injury report. He rested, so I would assume he's fine. It was just a rest day for him. But yeah, it's gonna be tight. Simmons is the one guy that I think has a chance to take this game over. And he's one of the best 3-down defensive players, regardless of position. Josh McDaniels talked about this today. Like, throw out the positions. He's just one of the best players in the league, and has the most pressures, the most sacks among interior defensive linemen this year. He is second in run stops. And the gap between 2 and 3 is pretty significant. I forget who's above him, but they're close. So he's a guy that can change a game. I'm going up against Jared Wilson, who had a rough game last week and is a rookie, and Garrett Bradbury, who, has had this okay start, but had the bad snap last week. We're kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop. Mike Onwenu, who I thought had, he wasn't terrible, but it was the worst game of the week last week as well, against a good front with Brian Bruzy and Devon Godshot. Now, Sims is a much better player. So that's the one guy I worry about. Like, he cannot come in and take over this game. And we can get to the run game element of it. I guess if you have any other thoughts on Simmons, you can get to him here. We can get to the run game element, but he is somebody that is going to be on the field a significant amount. I think he plays 80-something% of the snaps, which is high for defensive tackle. And whether it's 1st and 10, 2nd and 3, 3rd and 12, like any situation, he can impact the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed it. He plays every situation. You have to account for him on every down. He's a threat to make a big play every time, he's out there. Yep. And so I don't know. I haven't gone back through the Patriots schedule, but I feel like this is the best defensive lineman, the interior defensive lineman that they will have faced this year. I know they've had some challenges.
No, I think that's fair.
But I think Jeffrey Simmons is probably the biggest challenge yet for a guy like Garrett Bradbury. Certainly for the guards, I don't feel too. I'm not worried about Mike Onwenu in this game, but if they start to target Jared Wilson and that outside shoulder of Garrett Bradbury with Jeffrey Simmons, you could have problems. We've seen, Drake Maye, he's on a nice streak here, 3 straight games without a turnover. But that, the last time he fumbled against the Steelers, he tried to dart up the middle of the field and got the ball knocked out of his hands. And Jeffrey Simmons is a guy that you really hope Drake Maye doesn't run into the pressure. That's been an issue with Drake Maye as well, is running into the pressure. You hope that he doesn't run into Jeffrey Simmons, because Jeffrey Simmons is a guy that could literally take the ball away from him in a situation like that. And so if the Titans have hope of being competitive in this game, let alone pulling off an upset win, Jeffrey Simmons is going to be at the center of that. And I wouldn't surprise me at all if Jeffrey Simmons had a big game. And so I feel like, Josh McDaniels, based on his comments, he is well aware of the threat that Simmons poses.
Yeah.
And so I would hope that the game plan is sort of geared toward running away from him, maybe have Drake Maye run some bootlegs, roll him out, so he doesn't really have to deal with Simmons up the middle there and doesn't have to stand in the pocket as much. So I wonder if that's going to be sort of an adjustment we see in the offensive game plan. But if he tries to sit there in the pocket and they're expecting Garrett Bradbury to just block Jeffrey Simmons up the middle, they're going to have trouble. And so I don't think that's going to happen, but Simmons is probably the Titans' best chance to really, make this game interesting.
And then he's also a guy you have to race in the run game, and they got to get this run game going. And I think I said it with you on Monday. I said it with somebody on Monday. I'm doing all these shows. Like, at a certain point, I think players just need to be better. So oddly enough, last week, Ramondre Stevenson had a season high usage rate, 71.9%. Travion Henderson had a season low, was 20, I think it was like 27 point something, right? So, and that was after Henderson played 50% of the snaps the week before against the Bills, which was season high, albeit coming in the game that Antonio Gibson was injured. So Antonio Gibson goes out. We think it's going to be more even, the split between the backs. The snap count split was as wide as it's been all year, but Stevenson had 13 carries to Henderson's 9. So that's almost even. And Henderson caught a pass as well. So he had 10 touches. He had 10 touches in 19 snaps. Think about that. Basically, more than every other snap when Travion Henderson was on the field, the ball went to Travion Henderson. That is almost a tell at that point. So do they stick with that? Does it, do they balance it out in terms of Henderson playing more but getting the ball relatively less? Maybe the total times he touches it is the same, but it's not, 1 in every 2 snaps that he's on the field. I will say we've talked a lot about Henderson's patience being an issue. I do think he was a little more patient, did a little bit better job of letting things develop in front of him last week. He still has a long way to go in that regard. It wasn't perfect, but you saw, I think maybe that the first steps towards that. So I wouldn't mind his workload growing a little bit, but what I do want to get careful about with him is it can't be, all right, Henderson's on the field, he's getting the ball. Like, you can't, they're not talented enough. When you had Tom Brady with Sony Michel and James White and that ridiculous split, like, yeah, you could kind of telegraph what you were doing a little bit. With this offense, better, but they're not on that talent level. They can't be telegraphing what they're doing like that.
Yeah, of course. And look, I think when you say the players just simply need to be better in the run game, I think that absolutely applies to the backs. And I mean, Stevenson sort of speaks for himself. He feels like he's afraid to fumble now, so he's playing a little tentative. He's not really making those sharp cuts at the point of attack and making that first guy miss like we saw, for example, in that Miami game. And I think ever since that Miami game, which is, one of the best games of his career, he had that nightmare afternoon against the Steelers, and he hasn't been the same player ever since. And I feel like that is sort of mental. I think it's sort of creeping into Stevenson's head. And so he's got to get that out. Maybe he just needs to break off that one big run to sort of get him back going in a positive direction. I could absolutely say the same for Travion Henderson, but in the case of Henderson, it's that first play ever in his career. Like, maybe I feel like maybe Henderson just needs to break off that one big run, make a guy miss, break off a big play. It doesn't even have to be a touchdown, but just break off a huge 50-yard run where you're running away from guys, and all of a sudden maybe it clicks for him there where it's like, oh, but that's all I have to do. Like maybe he just needs that moment to sort of get going, because it feels like he's sort of stuck in a rut. feels like he's not seeing the field well. He's almost sort of inviting contact a little too much when he doesn't have to, where Henderson's a guy you want to see him get the ball in space and just make guys miss it in the open field and just run by guys. Like that's what I thought we were going to see with him based on what we saw in camp in the preseason. And so I feel like both those guys really just need to get that one big play to sort of get them rolling in the direction that we want to see. But to the point of the running game, Barth, I want to give credit to, I believe it was Paul Perillo on Felger and Maz yesterday. Yeah. And I wish we touched on this. I wish I thought of this when we had the Patriots Hub, so then Paul Perillo would have to give me credit for the take. How does Drake Maye factor into it? Like, is it possible that Drake Maye is not checking them out of bad plays when it comes to the run game? Is he not seeing the defense as well as we want, where it's like, okay, this isn't going to work if we try to run the ball here. They're overloaded to this side. They're loading up this gap. We shouldn't run the ball here. Let's check out of this and run a different play. And I don't want to hold too much of that against Drake Maye because it's still very early in his career. He's not even halfway through his second season. He's barely even been a starter for a calendar year. And so I get all that. But that just might be the reality. That might be part of the situation where the quarterback isn't checking them out of bad plays enough. And that's why you're seeing all these runs for 1 yard, no gain, getting stuffed at the line. I just wonder how much of a factor that is. And it's hard for me, like not being a X's and O's expert, watching the film, not knowing the play calls and the protections. It's hard to tell just watching the film, like, could they have checked out of the play? But I just think that was a good point by Paul. And I feel like that's a fair question mark about the run game and why they're getting so many of these stuffed runs and negative plays. Like, is part of it that they're not, Drake Maye could check them out of the play and he's just not doing it. And he's just running into a wall and they're just banging their heads against the wall.
So a couple theories on that. It's a good point. One might be, and you mentioned like just not knowing the X and O's of it, like we may not know. There's times, and Brady talked about this during his time, like he might check into a run play that wasn't going anywhere, but the reality is the pass play was going to have nothing. And you'd rather run for no yards than take a sack or force a throw and get an interception. So not saying that's what's happening. That's just a thought.
Leave it to Brady to get to that next level of
right.
thinking.
And I don't, is that, even if that were the case on some, I don't think that would explain every single bad run play, right? Because what are the odds that you're just constantly in, at that point, the problem runs a little deeper. There's something wrong with your pass plays. So maybe that's some of it. The one thing I would push back on with Paul with that is they were actually among the least stuffed teams in the league. I think they had the 7th lowest stuff rate going into last week. They had among the fewest runs for no or negative yards. That was the weird thing, is they weren't losing yards. They just weren't. It was all 3 or 4 yards. It was never nothing, but it was never something either. And I do wonder if when you're running the ball that way, there's an element of, all right, like this isn't going to work. But we saw what happened against the Raiders. We talked about it. Like they can't throw 46 times and win the game. Even with Drake Maye looking better now than he did then, I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think that's sustainable for the majority of teams in the NFL. So is there an element of, all right, well, this might go for nothing, but we've called 4 pass plays in a row, and we're probably going to need a pass here coming out of it. So let's just run this. Like, I do think that's why Josh was calling the run in the second half of that game in part.
We want to keep them honest, yeah.
Right. We just need to keep them honest. So I think that's part of it. I don't totally dismiss Paul's point, and I do wonder if that's an element of it. And that's where this, to bring it back to the Titans game and why this is interesting. So the first few weeks, okay, the run game really wasn't giving them much, but it wasn't costing them much either. It was just kind of, all right, 3 yards, all right, 4 yards, all right, 3 yards. And you weren't banking on big plays, but I do think it was enough to at least keep the defense honest. Last week was not. Last week was a bad performance by the run game. They had 6 runs that went for a loss, 2.1 yards per carry. I mean, you want to be at least at 4. If you're in the mid 3s, which is kind of where they were, it's not great, but it's like, that's where like you maybe start getting concerned. 2.1 is, we're completely going back to the drawing board. Like this is a disaster. So when they go up against Titans team that has been bad, they were really bad against the run until last week. They were awesome against the run against the Raiders. So was that an anomaly? Was that the Raiders sucking? Like, can the Patriots at least get back to functional in the run? Ideally more, but can they at least get back to functional, or does the run game continue to struggle? Because the other side of it is Chad Graff had this stat this week. They are still it's fourth most heavy boxes in the league. And I think they have the highest rate of single high safety against, or one of the highest. So teams are bringing an extra linebacker, an extra safety or two into the box and playing the run. And you'd think, like, keep doing it. Like, if teams want to keep doing that, fine with me, because Drake Maye is going to look awesome every week because he's tearing teams up for sitting on the run. You'd think at some point a team is going to start, all right, we got to go too high. We got to lighten the box. We got to take away the pass. And when that happens, now the run game has to get going. There's no excuse. So is this the week that the opponent adjusts, and can the Patriots take advantage? I just think in a number of different ways, they're at a crossroads with the run game here, and something's got to break eventually. Either teams got to give them more opportunities to run the ball defensively by lightening the box. They've got to start breaking some of these runs. Like you said, Stevens and Henderson just figuring it out. Maye maybe has to have his finger on the pulse more of when to check in and out of certain plays. I would honestly wonder, and I don't know if there's any way to actually figure this out, because if you ask them, I don't think they'd answer it. So Paul talked about Maye not checking them out of bad run plays. Mm-hmm. If we were to look at that, I would actually wonder if it's more the other way around. I wonder if he's checking in because he sees a pass look he doesn't like, and it's all right, ball security, ball protection. Let's just run this because I can't throw into this look, regardless of what's going to happen. I would wonder if it's more the other way. But it's
that's a fair point. That feels more like a McDaniels thing. Like McDaniels is saying that, and Drake Maye is doing that like through.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's what he's being coached to do. So that's just one long way of saying I have no idea what the hell is going on with their run game right now. There's so many variables that don't make a lot of sense. Is this the week we get it figured out? It'd be nice. I don't know, but it would be nice.
Well, to your point, I still think the biggest issue is the backs, the way they're playing, how tentative they are.
You put it well this week. Sorry to cut you off. You put it well this week. Like, I think the backs can play better and the line can play better, but which group has more room for improvement? It's the running backs.
Right. I think that's the biggest factor in why they can't get more than 2-3 yards at a clip, even when they get through to that second level. So I think that's probably the biggest factor in the struggles of the running game is the actual play of the running backs, as opposed to the blocking and the scheme and the quarterback and all that. I just feel like that Saints game might have been the first time where it's like, maybe they're starting to check into bad plays. And I get what you're saying. Maybe some of it was sort of by design. But like the point of attack, like I just feel like if you're the quarterback and you know where the point of attack is, and you're reading the defense well enough that you can see that they see where the point of attack is.
Right. This guy's going to come fill this hole that we need.
That's like, now it's like, okay, this is going to get us nothing. So we probably going to try something else. But I think that's an interesting point, that there's another layer to that where it's like, maybe we'll just pound our head against the wall this play because we need the defense to keep accounting for the run game. And we want to keep them doing that. And so maybe that's fair. And I was just looking it up mid-answer there. Denard Wilson, Titans defensive coordinator, second year at the team. He doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to sort of reinvent the wheel as far as how to stop the Patriots defense. So if the Titans win, I doubt it'll be because Denard Wilson had this genius defensive game plan. But that's something
I don't even know that it's genius in changing it. It's just, this is, at what point do you say we need more help in coverage because Drake Maye is shredding the defense?
Yeah.
And they're not, I think it was Beetle, maybe it was Fred said it this week. Like, teams are not respecting Drake Maye the way they're defending him. Like, they're daring the Patriots to throw the ball the way that they've been defending them. And why in the hell would you do that when Drake Maye's playing the way he is?
They got some good defensive backs. I mean, Quandre Diggs is on the Titans. Xavier Woods is a good safety. Roger McQuarrie. These are good, experienced defensive backs. So I don't know. Maybe they make good use of them.
A couple of them are on the injury report. L'Jarius Sneed's he was out yesterday. He was limited today, but
I think anyone at this point that listens to our podcast knows I'm not a big injury report guy. I talk like 20 minutes about a player. Like, he's out.
I write it up. It's my job, so that's why I'm a little more in tune with it. But like at a certain point, like all these elite quarterbacks teams play him too high. At what point do teams start playing Drake Maye too high? And when they do that, how does the run game should open up, or there should be the opportunity for the run game to open up? They'll have to capitalize on it, and that's the question.
I want to see the Travion Henderson wheel route if that happens.
So that's Lazar brought that up this week. Is throwing to the running backs is a way to simulate the run game without the actual run game, but they're maybe not sending the running backs, especially Henderson, as vertical as they could. So that would be an example. I still want to see him running like they did a little bit the first couple weeks. They've done it less lately. Come out with 2 running backs, but instead of them both in the backfield, put Henderson out wide or in the slot or whatever, like line him up like a receiver. And, you can run a go or a fade or a wheel from there, but the wheel out of the backfield too, I think is one of his better routes. And I'd like to see them hit on that. One more thing on the offense real quick. I want to see how Pop Douglas builds on last week. Had a couple of quiet games production-wise, but he was blocking his ass off. He was helping the team. Gets rewarded last week. Should have had over 100 yards. And it would be nice if that's a sign that he's kind of turning the corner, because I've said it a million times. I think this offense is better when he's a factor. There's a speed element. I mean, you see on the 2 touchdowns how hard he is to tackle in the open field. And I think using him vertically like that, instead of having him on some of these like quick hitting slants and stuff, like to me, his target should either be 20 yards downfield or in the backfield. I think they hit him on a bubble screen and he picked up a first down on that. So like hit him on that or hit him on the go or the post. Like the 7-yard in, you got guys that are better at that route. That's just the reality of it. But I'd like to see him build on last week because, again, I think he can be a big player for this offense. Anything else from you on the offense, Dolph?
No, that's basically it. And speaking of Roger McCreary, he's their slot guy, so that would be a tough matchup for Demario Douglas to sort of build on last week. But I think as long as you just block Jeffrey Simmons, or stay away from him the best you can, and I think they'll be able to move the ball.
That's the Tuesday morning guy. That's the guy you get into the meeting on Tuesday morning. You say, what's our plan for him? McCreary's a good player. They got a couple other guys that are like good, solid players. I don't know that, you have to go out of your way to game plan around them like you do like Jeffrey Simmons. He is the Tuesday morning player. On the other side of the ball, I don't know that they have a Tuesday morning player on the other side of the ball. If they have one, it's Calvin Ridley. Again, he hasn't practiced this week. I think the goal, obviously you took him first overall. The goal is for Cam Ward to become that guy. He has not been yet. It's been pretty inconsistent for him, completing just 55% of his passes, has only gone over 250 yards in a game once. It's not broken 300 yards a game, does not have a multi-touchdown game, really has not been a factor with his legs. It's the early growing pains of a quarterback on a bad team. We know what that looks like. We have seen it, Dolph, firsthand very recently. That's not to say Cam Ward's going to turn into Drake Maye, but the big thing for me in defending Cam Ward, we talked about this a little bit on Monday. I don't think they're going to play bend, don't break like they did against the Saints on the back end. But on the front end, they got burned a couple times running by the quarterback. And Cam Ward, if you give him an ability to reset the pocket, he can make you pay. He did that. That was probably his best trait in college. And there's some different things that go into that. That's more of a bigger umbrella than one specific trait, I guess would be a better way to put it. But when you have a don't be afraid to knock him off his spot, make him uncomfortable. He's a young quarterback. I won't be surprised if they blitz more in this game again, try to speed him up, but don't give him lanes to step up into. You're better off knocking him off his spot, bumping him instead of outright tackling him, just make him uncomfortable in the pocket. Because if he gets comfortable and he starts moving around, he's going to be able to buy time.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with Cam Ward so far is that he's been slow to process things. He's taken too long to get rid of the ball. He's 4th highest in the league in terms of time to throw, according to next.
Nice change of pace for the Patriots, by the way, because they've had some guys, they can get rid of it. Yeah. A great example. They're getting the ball out quick.
Absolutely. And so, I think he's the most sacked quarterback in the league. I think that's part of it. And so, make him uncomfortable, knock him off the spot. I'm not sure they're going to have to send extra rushers for that reason. I feel like maybe they could push the puck. This might be the game finally that we've been talking about where they can get pressure with 4. And I know the Titans have a solid
I'll give you
on the offensive line, especially on the interior.
Injury report update here. Harold Landry does not practice this week.
Teaching Dolph the injury report. This is a weekly segment. We need to get a sponsor for this.
They might have to do without Harold Landry because he's in practice yet this week, which would be a bummer if he doesn't get to go back and play in Tennessee. That would be cool.
And, to that point, like their interior offensive linemen are playing better than the tackles right now. So I think maybe this could be a big edge game for the Patriots. But it might
Dan
have
Moore
to be
has not been good.
It might. One of the big free agent signing, right?
Yeah.
So
remember, if you just draft Dan Moore, then you might have just signed Dan Moore. You can just draft Ashton Genty if you're the Patriots.
We might have spent more than 0 seconds being angry that the Patriots did not sign Dan Moore. So let's just keep that in mind here.
How's Will Campbell's doing? Fine, right?
Yeah, I think he's doing okay. Yeah, the arms look okay. This could be a game for Keon White to finally make an impact. He's been practically a zero this year. I've talked before about Caleb Chason being a guy that could occasionally pop for a big game. Maybe this is the Caleb Chason game coming up. But yeah, like I'm hoping that this is the game where they can send pressure with just 4 and, getting that extra half second just due to Cam Ward holding it a little too long and not, moving around in the pocket like we know he's capable of physically. I feel like that indecisiveness could play into the Patriots' hands. And so I'm hoping that this is the game where they can get pressure with just 4 and take care of everyone down the field, accordingly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just wonder if they send some more of those exotic blitzes just to mess with his head.
Yeah, especially on like a 3rd or 4th down situation, get his head spinning a little more. Maybe force him into a bad throw or turnover or whatnot.
They're not afraid to blitz these corners. Zach Core is not afraid to blitz these corners. So
I think you can bank on at least one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. The rest of the offense, Tony Pollard's been solid for them, but they get a little one-dimensional at times. It could very well, how's this for a wide receiver group? So Calvin Ridley, again, has not practiced yet this week. So you have 2 rookies, Elik Ayo-Manor, who I think you really liked in the draft, right? Was one of your guys out of Stanford?
I thought he was a good option for or at least, a potential option for the Patriots. I thought the Patriots would like him is probably the better way to put it.
Fair enough. I don't think you were wrong in that assessment, by the way. Chimere DK, who I liked, who's also their kick returner and punt returner, and then Tyler Lockett. So 2 rookies and an old man. They are throwing screens to Tyler Lockett, which if you know Tyler Lockett's history with yards after the catch is an interesting decision. They don't do it a lot. The fact they did it at all. This is a game to me where, you have Christian Gonzalez, Carlton Davis, and Marcus Jones. You got to, Lockett's a savvy veteran, but he's not what he was. Put Marcus Jones on him. You put your 2, I think Carlton Davis was an all-pro once. You put your all-pro corner and then your other guy who's also good. I know people are kind of down on him this year, but he's been good. He may not be an all-pro, but he's a good corner. No, he was not an all-pro. Okay, fine. You put your all-pro and your all-SEC, all-American corners.
And your former Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl winning cornerback.
Right. And you haven't put the rookies through the gauntlet. They were zone heavy last week. I would go, man. And I would have put these 2 stud corners out there and tell these rookies, you got to beat me one-on-one. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do it with any level of regularity. So, Chig Okonkwo's. No, sorry, go ahead.
Finish. No, finish your point.
Well, I was just going to, Chig Okonkwo is a good tight end. Again, them covering tight ends kind of scares me. That might be the guy that if they're going to break some plays worries me the most. But this is a big game for the Patriots secondary. There's been some are they as good as we thought? And I know it was bend don't break, but I didn't love it against New Orleans. And this is a good chance for them to kind of snap back in and be like, no, all right, this was the group of studs we thought they were coming into the season.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that's jumping off what I was just saying about the pass rush up front. Can this be the game they finally break through getting pressure with just 4 up front?
Yeah.
Can this be the game where the secondary finally breaks through and shuts them down across the board like we've been expecting? I feel like, look, they haven't been bad this year. I just feel like they've been competitive for sure. Carlton Davis and Marcus Jones, those guys compete their asses off.
Yeah.
So, I like them. It's just the execution hasn't been crisp. It's been a little hit or miss, a little up and down. They've given up a few too many big plays down the field, chunk plays for my liking. The penalties, obviously, with Davis. So it hasn't been perfect, and I'm not expecting perfection, but it just feels like there's been a little more. There's been more warts than I was expecting with the secondary, considering the talent and and the coaching staff and the defensive-minded coaching staff. And so maybe to your point that you're making, this could be the breakout game for them. And so maybe this could be get right game isn't the right way to put it, but maybe the game where the defense finally starts to get steady game. They steady the ship. Maybe this is the game where the defense finally starts to put it together the way we were sort of expecting, which is get pressure without having to blitz. And these guys should be able to cover better, more consistently anyway, than we've seen. And so this is a big opportunity for them as well. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting in that how much data do we really have on what this defense is going to, of what they want this defense to be? Because you can almost throw, and this isn't to say good or bad. This is more, I'm not trying to remove games to remove stats to make a point. This is talking stylistically. You can take the first 3 games out because they don't have their best player in Christian Gonzalez. He comes back for the Panthers game and they blow doors. It was a blowout. They were in garbage time most of the game. They weren't really going deep in the bag, right? So, okay, maybe that wasn't the best tell of what they want to be. Then you have the Buffalo game, which it did kind of look like what we thought it was going to look like. They were heavy man, timely blitzes, things like that. But then you play the Saints, and they go from press to now they're playing off. They're playing a lot of zone. It's a lot more conservative. So, like, they're going to be a game. Maybe they're just a truly pure game plan defense, and there is no core philosophy. Like, maybe that's the case, and it's really hard to do that. You have to be insanely talented as a unit to do that. Like, I'm sitting here this week and thinking basically the Bills game and the Saints game are the 2 full games we have of this defense, like, in full. Like, with Christian Gonzalez in a competitive setting, those are the 2 games we have. So is it the Bills game is what they want to be, but then they looked at the Saints and said, this is a speed team. We need to be a little more conservative, and we'll get back to what we want to do next week. Did they look at the Bills game and say, we need to play more conservatively? And then the Saints game is what they want to be. Like, I find it really hard if you were to ask me, what is this defense's overarching strategy? I don't know, because we really haven't gotten enough of a look at them at full force to say, at least from my vantage point.
I think that's fair. And like that same point, like maybe this is the game where it finally starts to gel.
So that's what I'm saying.
This is what they've been working towards. This is what they really want to be. Like maybe
this is not
their chance to do that.
Right. And thank you. I left that point totally open-ended. I should have closed the door on the take. Land the plane, Barth. This is not a game where I think, especially in a secondary, you look at who they have and say, we have to play this a certain way, especially if they don't have Calvin Ridley. I think this is the game you look at and you say, you know what, we can just do what we do well and come out, and do what we need to do. We don't need to reinvent the wheel in this. So call it a tiebreaker, right? Is it going to look more like the Bills game or more like the Saints game? I think it's going to look more like the Bills game. Maybe it'll be a third thing. I don't know. But like, I think this game will help us identify what this defense is. Anything else on the defense? As we said, we were going to keep this under 30 and we're entering minute 37 here.
I know. Yeah, like I just wonder how much of an impact Milton Williams and Christian Barmore are going to make. I know I've gone over the talent they have on the interior, the O-line. That you go over the Titans and it's like, what do they do well? The interior O-linemen are pretty good players. Like they're not world beaters. I'm not necessarily expecting them to shut down Williams and Barmore, but if they have any chance of being competitive in this game, those guys are going to have to win. Whoever wins that matchup at the line of scrimmage is probably going to be a big factor in it. So be interesting to see if Milton Williams and Barmore blow things up for him on the interior. I feel like it's good game. Titans, nice to see you come out here, but we're going to come out here with the win.
I do think I'm expecting a little bounce, but like Milton Williams didn't do much last week. He had like 100-something fever. So I do wonder if, for him, if there's an element of, all right, I'm not sick. Like, when you're sick and like he had, again, 100-something fever. I'm going to bring this down for us non-athletes. Like when you have a cold and you're just or even when you're more sick, you're like bleh for a week. And then like that first day you're fine. You're like, let's go for a run. Let's go do this. Like you just want to get out and do something. I wonder if there's this element for Milton Williams of like, all right, I'm healthy. Let's go. Let's I've been itching at this. It's like 2 weeks since I've gotten to play a normal game. What do you got? What's your score? What's your pick?
My score prediction is Patriots 27, Titans 17. So I guess the Patriots cover then. They win by 10.
Was it 27? Yeah, I was going to say 31-21.
Yeah, I think the Patriots move the ball, and the Titans have come up with a couple surprising plays because they're just surprisingly competitive, but Patriots end up pulling away. That's sort of what I think is going to happen.
Going to revise that. I don't know if Titans are scoring 3 touchdowns because that's what 31-21 would be. But I feel like the Patriots get in the 30s. The Titans have.
I was going to say, I don't know if they're going to get 2 touchdowns.
The most points they've scored this year was 22, and that was a game where they threw an interception, and then the interception was fumbled into the end zone. They recovered.
I amend 27-16. The Patriots will win, not
27-16. Okay, 27-16. I'm going to go. I still think it's a 30, but like I said, I thought maybe it's close, and the Patriots pull away late. Yeah, I don't hate the 16. Like 30?
Yeah, like I'm thinking 20-16, and the Patriots get a closing out
late
drive
touchdown?
in the fourth quarter.
I'm going to
Something like
piggyback
that.
on you a little bit. I like the 16. Give me 30-16 Patriots.
There we go.
So
All right, it's good to have. It's good to be confident in the team and the team winning, right? And the quarterback
it
playing
is,
well.
and
It's nice
they'll,
to have.
let's hope it doesn't come crashing down on us this week. But whether it does or it doesn't, we'll be back on Monday to recap the game. You can find that episode plus the game recap with David Andrews, Patriots Hub Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Also on the Sports Hub YouTube channel on 98.5 thesportshub.com. I'll be back on Sunday morning. Cerrone battle. The plan right now, I'll tease this a little bit. I actually do plan on having a Titans writer, Justin Mello, on tomorrow. Also does some draft stuff, so maybe we'll do a little draft talk too. Like 90% sure that's happening. He's coming back from vacation, so little bit of flexibility. I'm going to get Justin on at some point, whether it be tomorrow or Sunday. So
nice.
But keep an eye out.
Quick plug, any Bruins fans
Go
watching?
ahead.
New Sports Hub Underground available wherever you get your podcasts, so check that out.
Check
we
that
talk
out.
Patriots.
There you go. Check that out as well. But we'll be back next week. Until then, for Matt Dolloff, Alex Barth, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.